and getting divorced. The Prophet ﷺ, when he was approached by Zayd ibn Haritha, the husband of Zaynab radiallahu anha, he said to the Prophet ﷺ that it seems like that this marriage is not working out. We're not getting along together. We get verbal abusive to one another. So it's not working, and I want to divorce her. So every time the Prophet ﷺ, it happened multiple times that he came and kind of complained, and he kind of asked the Prophet ﷺ, should I divorce her? And every time the Prophet ﷺ said that, go back and try to reconcile and make this work. And the verse that I read in the first rak'ah was related to that part of the story. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَتَّقُولُ لِلَّذِي أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِ. That when you say to the person whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored upon him and whom you favored upon him as well. Because the Prophet ﷺ took him as a child, and now he's a grown man. Before that, he was married to Ayman radiallahu anha, and after she was much older than Zayd radiallahu anhu, and that went very well. They were very happily married, and then that she passed away, and after that he's married to Zaynab, who is Ayman compared to Zaynab. Zaynab was from a very affluent family, good-looking, handsome young woman. Didn't work. So it's the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every time you will come back, the Prophet ﷺ will say, Amsik alayka zawjak. Hold on to your wife and have wattaqi Allah, and fear Allah. وَتُخْفِي فِي نَفْسِكَ مَا اللَّهُ مُبْدِيهِ. After that, this verse indicates to something that the Prophet ﷺ was hiding, and you hide in yourself that Allah will make it apparent. وَتَخْشَى النَّاسِ, and you fear the people, and وَاللَّهُ أَحَقُّ أَن تَخْشَى, and Allah has more right to be feared of. So some of the scholars say that the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw this thing happening, and it's the Prophet ﷺ's cousin, and so on and so forth, the Prophet ﷺ thought that maybe this marriage should end and I will marry her. So that thing the Prophet ﷺ was hiding, but every time he will say, no, hold on to her. He would not say what he was intending in his heart. But the other scholars, someone asked Ali ibn Hussein ibn Ali radiallahu anhum, that what do you say about this hadith, about this verse? وَتُخْفِي فِي نَفْسِكَ, that you hide in yourself. And then he said, I heard Hassan, my uncle, radiallahu anhu, say, tell me the interpretation of this hadith is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ that Zayd will eventually divorce Zaynab, and then you will marry her. But of his good character and just being nice and giving a good counsel to someone who wants to divorce his wife, the Prophet ﷺ never told Zayd of the revelation he received. وَتَخْشَى النَّاسِ, and he also feared that, well, when I kind of talk about this, and then the word will spread and people say, oh, he's marrying his son's wife, his own daughter-in-law, and that was the tradition. So that was the fear that he had. It was out of haya, and haya is part of faith. And Hassan said to Ali Zayn al-Abidin that the next verse says that the prophets, what is it? الَّذِينَ يُبَلِّغُونَ رِسَالَاتِ اللَّهِ وَيَخْشَوْنَهُ, they fear Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm the most fearing of God. I'm the most of any one of you who fears God. So it was not that he didn't fear God, he was fearing people. But the thing that was holding it back, the tradition that what the people are going to say, and have to go through all of what people are going to say and that difficulty. So that fear is legitimate and it's natural. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ didn't want to say. And according to some of the scholars, that زَوَّجْنَاكَهَا لِكَيْ لَا يَكُونَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ حَرَجٌ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala marries you to Zaynab radiallahu anhu, that part that Allah has ordered him to marry, that's what the Prophet ﷺ was hiding. He was not telling Zayd. So he was just being honest. He was being polite, being nice with him, giving good counsel. So from this is that even the scholars who take the opinion that the Prophet ﷺ really loved Zainab and wanted to marry and wanted this marriage to end because it was not a happy marriage in any case, and it was helpful for everyone in this matter. Even in that case, it's the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has placed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is rightful to do that. But he didn't want to say that to Zayd radiallahu anhu. And it's very interesting that according to one narration, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told this verse, because for some time the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not reveal this verse to the people, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered me to marry Zainab, right? Because this is a very clear verse that Allah is ordering. Zawajnaka, right? It's from the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he held it back. And then later on he told, and he said, who's going to take this news? According to one narration, Zayd ibn Haritha, her ex-husband, he says, I will go. And he runs and goes and tells Zainab. And when he goes there, is this a shock for him to see Zainab, his previous wife, and now she's going to be the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. And it's just that it's an awe that he feels at that moment, that now she's going to be the mother of the believers. So he's just so, it holds him back that he's not able to face her. So he turns his back and he said, this is the message from the Prophet ﷺ that he's marrying you. And it's mentioned in the riwayah that the Prophet ﷺ did not do any nikah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already has arranged their marriage. And therefore later on Zainab radiallahu anhu, she was always back and forth with Aisha, because Aisha also comes from the Quraysh, from the same clan. She's the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So they both kind of have a very similar status. So they always were, head to head. So Zainab radiallahu anha says that the privilege that I have over the rest of my co-wives is that I have three things special that I have and nobody else has. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arranged my marriage. It was not the case for any of the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. And the second thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not have any wali for the nikah. What do you call it? Someone who's going to be the, I'm missing the word in English.
Witness.
Not witness.
Officiant.
The
Officiant.
Not officiant. Wali.
The guardian.
Guardian. The guardian. Yeah. So the guardian for the girl, there was no guardian. All of the awliya did it. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, so on and so forth, or the uncles and as we mentioned from the previous wives, no guardian. The third is that the messenger for our marriage was Jibreel alayhi salam, who brought the revelation. That was not for any other of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyway, there was a great feast, and then there was another incident that happened during the marriage. Inshallah, we'll cover that tomorrow. Barakallahu feekum. And also we'll conclude it with some points, inshallah. Subhanallah, bihamdihi, subhanallah, alhamdulillah.